Hello magical hands, welcome to the channel. If it's your first time, hi, my name is Jessica and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. Today's tutorial is going to be a very detailed tutorial. We'll be making this dress, and this portion of the video is going to be for the pattern drafting as well as the cutting. I have to put the two together because it's kind of trickish and I have to explain in detail. So this video, as you can see from the minutes, is quite long, which is because I took my time to explain every single thing you need to know. Stick to the end and don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, because this helps you to recommend this channel to other people as well. If you found something useful in the video, let us know in the comment section, and if you have a question, also let us know in the comment section. And let's get into the video proper. So I have already drafted out the basic bodice. This is the back piece, as you can tell from the zip allowance, which is 1 inch, although this blazer will not be needing a zip allowance, and also you can tell from the armhole curve that is not defined. So I'm just going to go over it again. I have my shoulder to my bust point, which is 11 inches. I wrote BP there, and then I have my shoulder to my under bust, which is 14.5 inches, and I indicated as UB. I have my shoulder to my half length, which also serves as my skirt waist, and I indicated it as HL/W, which is for waist. And then I have my shoulder to my hip line, which is 26, and also the full length, which I'll be using 35 inches for the full length of this dress. So this is all the basic points that I've marked. I'll go on and trim out the zip allowance. Like I said, this blazer does not need a zip allowance, as we'll be cutting that side on a fold, and also because the front is going to have a button band. On the top line, mark your neck width. I use 3 inches for the width, and for the depth I use 1.5 inch, and I'll connect those 2 points together. Extend your armhole line forward, which is going to serve as the chest line, because that is where the dart measurements will all start from. From the chest line, start marking your apex measurement divided by 2. Your apex measurement is your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. Mine gives me 4 inches. From the half length downwards, I'm going to mark 4 inches downwards as if we are marking a skirt dart. And on that point, I'll also mark my apex measurement. That is the point where the whole dart is going to stop. Connect the apex measurements together as seen. On the under bust line, we'll mark half an inch apart from the apex measurements. It's just going to be a regular dart, and I'm going to go ahead and connect everything to meet this under bust line. Just connect it in an arrow form as seen, and we'll have our darts ready. On the bust point line, mark your round bust measurement divided by 4, and also replace what we have at that dart arena, which is close to half an inch. Just make sure to replace it on that side on the bust point line. Under bust line, which is the UB, you're going to mark your round under bust measurements. You divide it by 4 and then you apply. And then make sure to replace what we have at that area, which is going to be 1 inch. And likewise to the half length, you mark your round waist divide by 4, and then you add what we have in that area. On the hip line, we are going to mark our round hip measurements, divide it by 4, and apply what we have. Since there is no dart extension, we are just going to move over to the full length. So I'm going to bring my hip measurement to my full length, but I'm going to reduce half an inch from it. This is not supposed to be straight, and likewise it's not supposed to be very pencil. So I just reduced half an inch. So now I can go ahead to connect all the lines together. And at this point, you can start cutting. I'll also be cutting out the dart, so I'll just fold this up to give this a little cut so I can cut out the darts that we shaded in between. So like I said earlier, I'll be cutting this on fold, and from the area where I cut out the zip allowance from, I wrote F. That is the side that will be on fold. Mark in 5 inches on the pattern paper as seen. Also from the top part of the pattern paper, mark 5 inches downwards as well. Make a straight line across the 5 inches that we marked horizontally and vertically. So from that 5 inches upwards and downwards, we are going to start placing our round bodice measurements. We are going to start marking the basic bodice. Now I'm going to start extending the basic bodice line, the bust point line. I will just mark it on this new pattern paper so that I can draw out the lines. So on the top line, I'm going to do my shoulder slope, and I'll also take out my armhole curve, my armhole line. So I'll find the midpoint of my armhole line. I'll come in by half an inch in order to get the armhole curve for the front piece. For the dart of the front piece, we are going to do a regular straight dart, just exactly as you can see on the picture. So from the bust point, you will come down by 1 inch. And on that point, you are going to mark your apex measurement, which is your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. Mine is 4 inches. Now that is going to stop 4 inches underneath your half length line, which is the regular point where our skirt dart would stop. And you know this front piece is like a crop top and a skirt. So just roll your straight line across this point. This is exactly how your dart should look like. If you have anything outside this, it might not give you the result we are looking for. On the under bust line, I'll mark half an inch apart from the apex measurement. On the half length line, I'll mark half an inch apart from the apex measurement. I'll connect those half an inch apart together with a straight line, just exactly as seen. And then I'll connect them to meet its bases. So I'll connect from the under bust to meet that 1 inch that we came down by on the bust point line. We'll just connect it as seen. So ordinarily, if I'm doing my dart, I might not use the same thing I use on my underbust or my half length. But since this is like two different pieces coming together, we have to do it exactly as seen. Next, I'll be marking my neckline. So I'm going to mark my neck width to 3 inches, which is what I used for the back piece. And then for the depth, I will mark 3.5 inches actually. I would usually use 3 inches, but I decided to make it 3.5 inches. So I'll connect together as seen with a curve. So for my button band, I'm going to come down by 1 inch from the under bust. That is where I'm going to mark the starting of the button band. That is where the buttons are going to be fixed, just as you can see in the picture. And I'm going to mark that 1 inch. I'm going to extend it to the full length. Now I'll connect those button bands together with a straight line. And also I'll indicate that part to be the button band. I'm just going to write out what everything stands for. So next thing for me to get would be getting the lapel. So if you're making like a vintage shirt, normally you would like to extend the button band upwards or just increase by 2 inches and all of that. But I want my lapel to be bold. So I'm going to extend the neckline, the neck depth. I'm going to extend it by 3 inches. I would regularly use 3 inches because I just feel like it works well for me. But you can use 3.5 or 4 inches. So I'll just connect it in a slanted way to meet the button band at that point. And we have our lapel already. So I'll just go ahead with my ruler to rule out the whole part of a blazer that is usually called a lapel. So from that neckline to that button band, that whole area is what is called the lapel. Next, I need to cut out the collar, and I'll be cutting the collar on this part. That was why we left space on the top. So I'm going to mark what I have around the neck width after I'd cut this whole area. You know, because of that curve, this will now be more than 3 inches. So I'm just going to measure what I have in that area, and I have almost 4.1 inches. I'm just going to show you guys on my tape. This is exactly what I have. So that is how long the collar is going to be, because that part of the collar is going to be sewn to the back. So now I'm going to mark this. I'm going to use my pen, guys. I'm going to mark this very straight. I'll make sure to connect it straight, very straight upwards. Just go ahead, but use your pen for this part. Now we are going to determine how wide we want this collar to be, and I will always use 4 inches. 4 inches is cool, 3.5 inches is cool, but if you want to get exactly what I got, you can use 4 inches as well.
So we are going to mark 4 inches, that is the wideness of the collar, and we are also going to cut it very straight. Don't slant it at all, just go ahead and mark it very straight with your pen, and then connect it very straight to meet where the lapel starts from. Just close up that area with your pen. So now that we've been able to do that, we'll now go ahead and define this collar very well. Looking at the neckline of the back piece, you will see that it is curved, it is not straight. So your collar is not supposed to be straight, and we came down by 1.5 inch for the neck width. So I'm going to extend this collar by 1.5 inch. Now we are going to place our curve ruler as seen, so that it matches with the curve of the neckline upwards. So from that part, on that we are going to now still mark the same width, which is 4 inches, like I already marked with my pen. So now this time around, on the point where we have the 4 inches, we are going to go up by 1 inch. We are going to extend it upwards by 1 inch. That is because by the time you fold your collar, if it's equal with the base, it is going to be tight. But by the time you extend it up by 1 inch, it's going to relax properly by the time you fold your collar. So now that I've done that, I'm going to then close it up, same way we did with the pen, but we are going to use the curved side of the ruler because the other side is already curved. So if you make it straight, it's not going to still relax properly. It's supposed to be curved because by the time you fold it, it's supposed to relax the same way the other side is relaxed. I hope my explanation is even making sense. In order to create the notch, I will go upwards by 1 inch. I will connect it inwards with my ruler as seen. Just make sure it's not too deep, like not too deeper than at least 1.5 inch. And that is going to be the notch of the collar. After indicating that part, I'm going to start placing my round body's measurement. Don't forget that that line that I'm placing my hand on is the actual line. Every other thing ahead of it is just button band or the collar or the lapel stuff. So that is from that point, that's where you're going to start marking your round body's measurements. On the bust point line, I mark my round bust divided by 4. And I'm going to mark my round under bust measurements divided by 4 on the under bust line. I'll also replace what I have in that space there, and I'm also going to do the same thing to the half length. If you notice, I have not added any seam allowance to this. I'll be adding all of that while cutting this on my fabric. So on the hip line, I'll mark my round hip measurement divided by 4, and I'll bring down my hip measurement to the full length, but I'll reduce it by half an inch. So I'll just go ahead and connect all these lines together. So now I'll trim out the other parts that I did not draw anything on, so that I can be able to explain the whole cut we had around the whole waistline, the whole cropped thing going on there. So now I've cut this out. Let me just show you guys what the lapel would look like by the time you fold it, or by the time we have made our dress. We've made our dress. This is what the collar and the lapel is going to look like together. Although we are going to cut the collar separately. First of all, I will cut out the darts, which is the same thing we did to the back piece. So just go ahead and cut out that whole dart area. Remember, we've already replaced the dart measurement to the sides while we're applying our round body's measurement. So I'll just cut it out so that my explanation can be more clear. My focus point for the dart is going to be the half length line. So at that half length line, I will mark 1 inch upwards and I'll mark 1 inch downwards. That is going to be the focus point. So on the other side of the half length line, I will mark 1.5 inch downwards. Please take note. I will mark 1.5 inch downward and I'll mark 1.5 inch upwards. So these are going to connect from top down in a vertical form. So let me just show you guys. I would advise you use your curve ruler. So just place the curved side of your ruler as seen. That line I did was a mistake. So this is the actual line. I'm just ruling it out so we'll understand. So you connect from the 1 inch upwards to the 1.5 inch downwards. So this is going to be for the top part of this, which is the cropped side. This is what you are going to do, and then you are going to flip this over so we can connect from the 1 inches downwards to the 1.5 inches upwards at the other side. So this is going to be the skirt, the waistline of the skirt.
Looking at the picture, I decided to make the top part, which is the upper bodice, I decided to make it more defined because you can see that these connections meet close to the dart and I don't want it to meet very close to the dart. So that top part, I went up again by half an inch. So let's say for that top part, we went up with a total of 1.5 inch from the half length. So I'm going to reconnect that curve only for the top part. That was the only part I added half an inch, so that the area where they meet will just be will have a bit space from the dart line. So now I am okay with what I have, so I can go ahead and cut. So while cutting, I will stop just at this point and then I'll quickly transfer the top part to the fabric. First of all, I'll cut out the collar piece and I'm going to keep that aside. Also, the top part of the collar, I'm going to cut that side on fold, and I'll also be cutting my collar in 2 pieces. So I'll just indicate that top part as F for fold. While cutting the top piece, make sure to add the necessary seam allowance as well as to add the sewing allowance by the side. So I'll go ahead with my chalk, my industrial chalk, which is color pink, to mark the dart on the fabric. So that way I'll just take it to my sewing machine and sew this up. Also, I am marking this on the wrong side of the fabric, so make sure to mark yours on the wrong side of the fabric. In order to cut the skirt piece, I will have to tape back that other side to it because you can see the waistline of the waist, the curve is different, so we'll have to tape that back in, which was the reason why I had to quickly cut out the top part. So I'll just go ahead and tape. So now that I've taped it, you can see what this is looking like, the way we connected it. So I'll just go ahead and cut this on the fabric. So I'm going to cut the back piece on the fabric as well. I've been looking for my pink chalk and I couldn't find it, so I just went ahead to use a white chalk, which might not show clearly on this video, but trust me, it was showing on the fabric. So I'll just go ahead and transfer the back piece to the fabric, and I'll also make sure to add all the necessary allowance. So I'll place my front pieces on this part is very important. So at that area where I marked 1.5 inch upwards and 1.5 inch downwards, I'm going to notch it on the main fabric. So it's very important you do this. In order to cut my sleeve, I have my pattern paper here. First thing I'm going to mark, I'll use the top part as the starting point. It's going to be the bicep line. That is the point where my biceps is going to be around. So I just drew a straight line across 5 inches. I mark 5 inches downwards for the bicep line. And next I marked my elbow line. So from my shoulder to my elbow is 13 inches. And then the next thing I'm going to mark is going to be the full length of the sleeve. So determine how long you want yours to be. And I marked 23 inches for mine. So I'll make a straight line across those points. So we have the starting line, the bicep line, the half length, and the full length. So on the bicep line, I'll mark my bicep divided by 2. My bicep is which is my round armhole is 18 inches. So 18 inches divided by 2 gives me 9 inches. On that bicep line, I'm going to mark 9 inches, exactly 9 inches without any seam allowance. Next, I'll find the midpoint from the shoulder to the bicep line, which is 5 inches, right? I will find the midpoint, and the midpoint is 2.5 inch. So I'm just going to note the midpoint, and then I'm going to mark on that midpoint line. I'm going to mark 4 inches there. So that point is going to be what we are going to be working it with. So I'll just curve from the top part, the starting line, to meet that point, and then connect it to meet the bicep line. Also from that point, I'm still going to flip the ruler back because it's supposed to be defined as seen. So I'm just going to go ahead and work on the top part again, just redefine it more. And once I'm okay with my curve at that area, I'll go ahead. to my elbow line, and on the elbow line I will mark my round elbow measurement, divide by 2. So my round elbow measurement is 12 inches, and then I'll divide it by 2, which gives me 6 inches. So mind you, while I'm taking this measurement, I am releasing the tape. I'm not holding the tape tight, so I can have a bit of ease. So that's 6 inches there. I'm going to connect from that bicep point to meet it as seen. So I'll just connect those 2 points together, and the last line that we have is the full length line, and on that part I'm just going to mark what I have on my wrist. You can see the way I am going to be holding my tape. I'm going to hold it a bit loosed, so that way I can have, some ease. The sleeve is not tight. So I have 8.5 inch. I'm okay with that, and 8.5 inch divided by 2 gives me, I think, 4.1 something thereabout. So I'm just going to mark exactly with that on the full length, and I'll connect together, and this is going to be my sleeve. So I'm just going to cut this out and transfer to the fabric. So guys, if you want to watch the part 2, how I joined this together to be able to achieve the results, do well to check the link in the description box as well as the comment section. And that being said, see you guys in my next video. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to like and share.